So, polarisation. Polarisation occurs when parts of us become strongly divided and create internal conflicts. These internal conflicts lead us to feeling stuck and overwhelmed and torn. What I want to say is that within your system, these battles will make sense if we start to really get to know each side. It's like having a ball of knitting wool with lots of different threads, and you're taking out one thread and then you're taking out the other until you can actually see what is going on. It's like if you've got kids and one wants to go to the beach and one wants to go to the to the playground, and there's a fight. You listen to the various different sides, and that begins to make sense. And as I explained just a little bit ago, with you at the centre, you at the helm, the conductor of the orchestra, or the mayor of the town, or the driver of the bus, or I'm going to explain the captain of the ship. There's a centre here. There's possibilities of helping, or of finding a way through, finding clarity. So I'm sure you're all aware of an awful lot of polarisations out in the world at the moment. The world is really, showing us very clearly a lot of polarisations, and internal family systems is about bringing that and looking internally. Our internal conflicts often are mirrored outside, but for what we're going to look at today is the internal ones. And it's internal family systems, and what we find out is that our fights outside often relate inside, as I said, but some parts within us can really get on, like in a family. Some family members get on and some don't, and they polarize, and they are at war with each other, and this is really similar, outside, inside. So some relate to each other in ways that are friendly, indifferent, or at odds. Some parts have alliances, and some have hierarchies, and some are in conflict, just like in families. And it's internal family systems, just like outside. If one thing happens in one area, something might happen in another. When you talk to one part, the others are likely to be listening. And so, things changes. So we are working systematically, which is, to me, really exciting. It's sort of these complex dynamics can be looked at slowly, but it's with mapping parts and getting to know parts, changes can occur. So I want to give you a metaphor here, which I really like, and this one doesn't quite work because it's not got lots of people on it, but a sailboat. It's like this person here is trying to balance the boat. So if you have a part that wants to do one thing, it's trying to balance the system. But if there's a polarisation, the other one is trying to balance it in the other way. And can you see that if one was to sort of give up, the boat would fall over. The boat would capsize and everyone would drown. So what we're trying to do in IFS isn't stop someone drinking or, just taking something away. That doesn't necessarily work. It's with you as the helmsman, you as the captain of the ship, being there and listening to this side and then listening to that side and really trying to understand what they're trying to do and negotiate and discuss. Maybe there's a sense that, there can be balance. They don't have to lean out quite so extremely, quite so far. I don't know if that metaphor works for you. Maybe you can find, I can see some nodding. So in IFS, we're aiming to restore self at the captain of the system. So what is a polarisation? It's when two parts oppose each other, both fear that the other side will win or take over. Classic power struggle. Each side is committed to its own agenda or strategy and becomes increasingly convinced that the other side has no merit whatsoever. Parts have their own viewpoints and will bring in loads of evidence to support that. You try and argue with, as I'm sure you've been in arguments with people, it's sort of, you can find all sorts of evidence to sort of shore up your side of things. And for each side, they're frantic. Letting go would be disastrous, so you dig deeper in a vicious feedback loop. And we can really see that externally. I don't know, I certainly have this internally as well sometimes. So what are the functions of them? They provide balance with their power struggles, weirdly. It actually sort of keeps the status quo. They're trying to protect exiles, albeit with different strategies. What we find, amazingly, once you start to talk to them, they might have turned up on the same day, but they've just, years and years ago, when you were like 5, but so they've just got a different way of doing it, and then they entrench. Or they provide distraction from something else going on inside. So, types of polarisations, and please don't get too worried about whether it's, what categorisation this is. So, C. Sykes brought the upside down triangle thing. She's a lead trainer in addictive processes, and so I've done my funky little stick people. So managers, firefighters, and exiles. But so there are different types of polarisations, and they can occur everywhere. So manager polarisations. So these are the proactive ones that are forward thinking. So it depends on which managers step forward. In their desire to preemptively protect the person from feeling vulnerable, one manager may advocate active measures, whereas another wants to build a wall to keep threats out. So, as I said, I'm going to talk about me. So I have a part that wants to get this out into the community. So goes, yeah, let's video. And another part that goes, isn't it nice to, be admired and sort of be seen out there? And so that's 2 that are going, yay, videoing. And then there's another manager of mine that's going, no, let's just sit and not do this, and that'll be fine. I can see some nodding. I think there's some. So that's my manager polarisation for today. So one's sitting back, one's coming forward. A manager-exile polarisation. Because exiles are often chronically neglected, they become extremely needy, and their desperation scares managers. Imagine managers who strive for strength and independence, and who have little tolerance for vulnerability in themselves or others. Let's keep that little one down. So, I've got this polarisation too today, funnily enough. It's like, I want to be seen as sort of strong and independent, and, I know this stuff, and I'm going to do a video. And I have an exile that's going, I'm scared, and, I need to come out here, and I'm sort of, yeah. So then there's a manager-firefighter polarisation. This is the typical dynamic between managers and firefighters. Managers and firefighters are common enemies. Firefighters douse the flames. They soothe, with drugs, sex and rock and roll, and, Netflix, and, let's just go and do that. Or they dissociate. They want a person out of control, whereas managers want control. And managers trying to keep the person under tight control. It's a vicious cycle that repeats and escalates, with managers shaming. And we've looked at Martha Sweezy's shame cycle of internal critics or anticipatory scouts, never again, shaming. And this activates exiles, which then energise the firefighters to quash the exile flames, which alarms managers, and so on. Managers hold the rules, the generational biases, and often the rebels on the other side. You might have some beliefs from parents or great-great-grandparents. Racist. I have parts that hold racist beliefs, and my firefighters are furious with that and will rebel against. And luckily there's a me in the middle. So a biased, anti-biased, or a part that indulges and a part that restricts. The inner shaming and distress from these battles can escalate rapidly, causing more internal damage and possibly inviting outsiders to weigh in. So, firefighter, yikes! I've got a feeling from down here. Let's drink to make myself feel better. This morning I passed someone who was smoking a cigarette and I was already feeling a bit anxious and I went, ooh, maybe I can get one of those. What did my managers do? Disgusting. No, they're bad for you. So then a firefighter polarisation. So firefighters may argue about what kind of strategy to employ in dealing with exile pain. One firefighter might want to zone out and forget, and another one might want to blame the others, look out and sort of have a rage at someone else. It's, and blame someone else for how they're feeling. Then we have a firefighter exile polarisation. Firefighter reactions make it so that the exile never gets heard. The exile may be pacified temporarily with the coping strategy, but still learns for liberation. The exile's going, ow! And the firefighter, I'm going to drown you out with food. So, and it keeps the exile down. And then finally, is it finally? Yes, exile polarisation. All exiles feel vulnerable and need to have their stories told. Their level of trust and attachment styles may cause them to react in different ways once they break through the protective layers. So one exile might be, I can't bear being alone, I'm afraid I'm going to die, I've got to grab on and I need you, need. And I really want to say here, need is a really important thing, and we all need each other. We're a community. It's really healthy and normal to need others. We live in a weird society where that's sort of squashed down. But there are some burdened exiles that are super needy. And is this making sense that there's a difference? Yeah. So it's a little bit complex. So that's the grasping out exile versus the one that's full of shame and scared, and it's just better to stay invisible. And you can see how they fight within you. Well, I don't know if you've got these, I've certainly got both of those, and they can fight within that. So, very quickly, why very quickly? Part of me said very quickly. Working with polarisations is to harmonise and balance with self in the lead, improving communication between parts and self. Helping polarised parts see that the tug of war isn't working, but they have something important in common, the welfare of you. They're all on team you, or team me. They're really trying to help me, but, this isn't working. So, hey, I'm here, what can we do? And eventually getting permission down the line to connect with exiles that polarised parts are protecting. So how do you work with polarised parts? Normal IFS, cultivating curiosity and compassion, facilitating a dialogue between parts, acknowledging their positive intention. They're trying so hard for you. They've got such good intentions. And down the line, we can unburden and heal the exiles. And we're not doing that in this group, but there's lovely ways of unburdening and healing those little frightened ones that are in there. And then building collaboration and integration. And I just wanted to share a really quick story about Walt Disney working really beautifully with his polarizations, intentionally. And he would dream up a story, and then he would plan it, and then he would criticize it. So he would have the planning parts and the critical parts, that's two managers, and then the creative one. So they would work together, and he would really consciously listen to one, the planning, and then really listen to the critic, and write it all down, and then he'd sort of look at it as an overview, and what's the dream, how do we plan this, and what works and what doesn't, and then he'd put forward his film, or he'd be able to put it together and to make decisions from there, which I thought was a really lovely way of how you can collaborate internally. Thank you very much.